Alright, what's going on, couch potatoes? Today we're going to be taking a look at an update on my little D&D game for GameBuilder Garage. Quite a bit of work has been done since the last time I made a video about this. Many sleepless nights and many long days. But we got some progress. We got big progress. Maybe not so big, but I would consider it pretty substantial progress. So, as you may see, we now have 7 games. We now have 7 games. Okay? 7 games. And I'm going to kind of go over the thought process behind some of this stuff. Not too in depth. I don't want to bore you too much, but, I definitely had to make some compromises here and there. I definitely had to change the direction that I was going to go with the game in a couple of places. Not too much of a departure from what I wanted. It's still pretty damn close to what I wanted. And I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So again, we have 7 games, and 2 of them are actually, 2 of them are actually boss battles. So I was going to make one battle just the boss battles, and then have it generate the boss based on where you are. And then the other battle would be like the normal battles, your regular floor battles. But I just couldn't exactly figure out how to determine which floor you are on coming from a boss battle. So let's say that I was on floor number 2 and I went into a boss battle, and which should put me at floor number 3, but not exactly sure how to tell the boss battle game to put me in 3 and not 2 or 1. I can tell it to go back to the previous game, but that would typically be the floor that you came from, not the floor that you want to go to. So that wouldn't work. And I tried initially triggering the boss battle as soon as you basically get into each level, and then it would return you to the previous game, which worked, except you then re-triggered the boss battle every single time, so you got kind of stuck in a death loop. So that wasn't going to work either. So for now, the workaround is going to be that every floor boss has its own game. That way I can tell you, or I can tell the game, which floor to go to after the boss is defeated. I may figure out a better way to do this, but for now, that's just kind of how it is. So that's partly why 7. And I could probably condense some of this down into less games. I would like to. I would prefer that if someone wanted to download this and play it, they don't have to download 15 different games. Although, I mean, that would be kind of cool to release levels and chunks of the game periodically, and then kind of have your library build up successively after each drop, and the game just gets bigger and better. So that is kind of cool. But for right off the bat, 7 just feels like a lot. So we're just going to keep it at that length, or maybe 8 if it's going to be necessary. But I want to try and keep it down as much as possible. So let's jump right in. So lot of different stuff. I had to I had to relay nodes in a lot of different places. So yes, I figured out the mapping nodons after watching many videos from many people much smarter than me, and I also figured out some better ways to use bullseyes and markers. Bullseyes and markers are super duper awesome. Super awesome. I love them. Super awesome. I'm just like I'm finding myself like trying to stick in markers and bullseyes as much as I possibly can, just because they look cool and it's easy to make logic gates. Um, yeah, and it just kind of looks cool when it's running. All the different kinds of scanning and dot movements. But yeah, so here we go. So 7 games. So we're gonna start on the Dungeon Master version 0.9 start. We start at the beginning, obviously. So yeah, version 0.9. I'm calling this version 0.9 because it is oh so close. So close to being version 1.0. And even version like 1.0 I would still consider not really a version 1.0. It's more like an acceptable version. Not that this isn't acceptable. I mean, I put a lot of work into it, but yeah, just the sprites, just the textures and some of the other mechanics, and just fleshing out more models and fleshing out the town area and stuff like that. So it's still got a lot of work to do, but it is definitely, at this point in time, version 0.9, it is definitely playable. It's pretty fun. And yeah, I mean, you could easily spend 20 minutes to half an hour to more, I guess, playing it, which was kind of the goal, to move past the like 5-minute, mini game kind of feel. So yeah, let's start. Let's just jump right in. So Dungeon Master version 0.9 start. So this is basically going to be, just like in the last update I made, this is basically going to be where you assign your stats, and where a couple of like little cinematic things are going to happen, some explanation. I don't have too much explanation in it right now, but the foundation is there. The foundation is there to put a bunch more explainy stuff in there, which I will. So here we go. We start with, I kind of take this as like, you're a spirit, and you're kind of reincarnating into this life, which kind of explains the roguelike, light, whatever aspect of it, where you kind of just come back in, respawn, and there's some random aspects to it. I think that's what a roguelite is, but if it's not, then, it's whatever it is then. So yeah. So we got a nice little animated A button, like that. Got a couple of those. So it's asking us to press A. And she's just going to tell us a little, greetings, good luck, your new life awaits you. Fun times. So now we're going to hit A again. And pan over to the our little dice roll. So I may update these a little bit later, but for now they're actually fine. As you'll notice that they're all the same actual texture. They all are standing on the 20 on the 20 side, but in order to make a move around, I kind of just rotated the image around. It kind of looks like it's rolling, but yeah, you'll see. So we're gonna roll for our strength, and this just, as soon as you hit A, it just kind of sits here and rolls and waits for you to hit A again in order for you to, you can kind of go at your own pace. I find myself usually just clicking through it crazy, just because I know every single literally node and aspect and line inside of this thing, so I just blaze through it. But it's showmanship, showmanship. Yeah, that's what it is. All right, so we're gonna roll our strength, and we got a 1. That's not good. We're gonna roll our intelligence. We get a 3. Ooh, that is good. We have max intelligence. Oh yeah, and I changed the stats around. So I went with less stats. I basically just kept the ones that I had before, but I got rid of wisdom because I couldn't really think of a way currently to apply wisdom. And there's plenty of ways to use wisdom in D&D and everything like that. But for this particular game, I couldn't really find a really worthwhile time or a worthwhile use for wisdom, so I slashed it. So now we basically just have strength, intelligence, dexterity, and perception. And each one of these stats actually does do something in the game. And towards the end, they have an even higher impact, but I won't give away the ending. It's a little surprise. So we're going to roll our dexterity. So far, we're a mage. A 1 dexterity. We're a clumsy mage. Oh, but we're a perceptive mage. That's good. Alright, so now, as soon as that's done, it gives me a couple of seconds to contemplate my decisions. And poops us out into the town area. Or the soon-to-be town area. Right now it's kind of like a camping area. So, a bunch of trees. Awesome. Love the trees. So this is basically the area where we're going to be able to upgrade our stats. I didn't want to... It is actually required. I made it so. I made it so that it is required to progress. There's a lot of scaling and testing and adjusting numbers to get this to kind of feel right, to feel hard but fair. That's, that's difficult. So, but you're going to need to be able to increase your stats in order to progress, essentially. And this is where you do it, back in town. So, train at our campsites costs 3 potions. So basically, because I want to save a little bit of space, and I'm not going to have money or any other different kinds of treasure that comes out of chests just yet, basically your currency is potions, and the maximum number of potions that you can carry on you is 3. So when you have your max potions, you can come out to the campsite here and upgrade one of your stats and go back in and, try and progress a little bit further. So right now we've got 1, 3, 1, and 2. Oh, and then also over here I've got this kind of blocked off. This is supposed to be like, under construction, because this is kind of where the rest of the town is going to go. And there's going to be NPCs in there that will basically tell you stuff, give you little hints about what's going on, how to defeat the big bad boss, and kind of like where to go and stuff. And also, this is where you're going to get side quests. Side quests are going to... I'm not entirely sure I'm going to incorporate that just yet, but I definitely want them. I definitely want them, so they're definitely going to happen. I just don't know exactly what that's going to look like just yet, but it's going to happen. So just wait for that. But for now, it's just kind of an open field, blocked off. Got a little icon up here telling you that the X button pulls up your scroll, whatever that looks like. I don't know. I'm so terrible at drawing, as you'll see, but you get the idea. It works. So X is going to... let's move that mouse out of the way. X is going to bring up your little character sheet, right? Shows us strength, intelligence, dexterity, and perception, and our number of potions with a fun little icon for the potions. So there's really only one way to go, and I have most of it blocked off with invisible boxes that are also acting as these trees. So you're kind of stuck in here. Not entirely, you can wiggle through for sure, but it's not airtight. But I'm kind of gently guiding you towards where to be going, which is going to take you kind of up north here, and here's the entrance to our cave. See, look at that! Look at that beautiful texture. God, I am such a good artist. Look at that. It looks like a train tunnel, I guess. I don't know. So here we go. We're going to walk into the tunnel. I like this little effect right here. How I have the texture node actually kind of offset at a 45-degree angle. So that when you walk through it, your body kind of disappears into the darkness a little bit at a time. And then when you get all the way back in there, you hit a little sensor and you go off into the first floor of the dungeon. So that's what we were going to do. And here we go. So I also implemented a class system. So basically, based on what stats you roll and what stats you currently have, when you enter into combat, your character is going to display as the class that you currently are. And I have, let's see, I have knights, mages, which I'm a mage right now, um, rogues, and paladins. Paladin, crusader. It's kind of a, the tank slash mage tank, basically. So, and eventually, I will also be adding a generic kind of, I guess, texture or sprite or walking animation set for your little robot guy here, because I don't like the robot, and I want him to go away. But I just spent so much time doing a bunch of other stuff. This kind of always trickles down to the bottom of the list. So, yeah, eventually this little robot man will be something generic, like a generic walking adventurer looking kind of thing. So I'm going to kind of do like a Pokemon thing where, the overworld sprite is very simple, and then when you get into the battle, it's going to be more complex. And that's just because I'm lazy, and other reasons too, but, mainly laziness. Laziness really drives most of my decisions. So that's coming. So it's not just going to stay a robot forever. All right, so here's our starting room. So now, right here, essentially, right as I come through this this little entranceway, I'm going to hit a sensor, and that sensor is going to basically track my movements, or it's going to start tracking my movements, and it's going to give me a random battle encounter after a designated amount of time. So you basically have a certain amount of time to get to the next floor. And when you get to the stairway, essentially, to the next floor, you have to beat a boss who is harder than, the normal monsters that you've been running into in order to progress. So that defeating the boss is going to send you over to the level 2. And there's essentially, once you've entered into the dungeon, or the cave or whatever, there's essentially only 2 ways to remove yourself from the current area that you're in. I will eventually actually probably put a door or something, kind of like right here at the entrance. So just in case you changed your mind or something like that, you wanted to go back out without having to trudge through another battle, you should be able to do that. So that's coming. Definitely going to add that. But for now, this works, and it feels fair. So we're just going to still consider this part of version 0.9. Alright, so I've started my descent now. And again, right, the textures and the special little funny objects, it's always going to be kind of towards the bottom. But as you can see, it's kind of coming along. Here's the chest that we have talked about. Ooh, yeah, 16. Good. I need a potion. Great. And I have a bad dexterity, too. Yeah, I have a 1 dexterity, so I'm actually pretty surprised that I got a 16 there. So this is a good example right here of me basically trying to save on objects. So every wall, not every wall, but most walls that are facing towards the camera are removed. Again, in order just to save nodons. And so I've added a little detector. Ooh, that looks like that's a bad area. Oh, I got a battle anyways. So the detector, I'm gonna move my thing so you can see my beautiful sprites. Oh, so ugly. Okay, there we go. So I added a little location sensor onto your avatar, and it's tracking your Y position. So if you do fall off the edge, you're gonna die. Not die, but your avatar is going to explode, and you're going to find yourself back at the start of the maze. So it's not a hard punishment; it's a soft punishment for being clumsy, which I'm actually okay with. That works out. It fits into the feel of the game. So for now, that's that's definitely going to stay in. I kind of like that. So as you can see, we are a mage, a stick figure mage. You know what? You know what? I'm actually kind of proud of some of these sprites. Maybe not exactly this one. I think this was actually the first one that I made. And then because, look at this, I mean, you've got Mr. Slime over here, and you can tell that I put a little bit more time into him. I mean, it's just a green ball with a couple of different shades of green, so it was not super complicated. But some of the other sprites I actually did kind of work on, so. Okay. So each of the monsters, you have a potential of 4 different regular monsters that you can encounter. This is one of them. This is actually the weakest one. He starts at 20 health. So the monsters are kind of gradiented out into different healths to make them, harder and softer. So this is the easiest enemy right here, starting at 20. The next one is going to be 30, and then 40, and then 50. So your strength stat actually affects how much health you have, and also how much physical damage you'll be doing when you do physical attacks. So it is, in your best interest to basically upgrade that as soon as possible. So that being said, I'm starting off with 30 health. If I were, a knight or a paladin, I would have more health, and I would, have an easier time with the harder monsters. So let's look at a couple of these options here. I've got potions. I don't know if you can see this because of my beautiful face is in the way right there. Oh yeah, see that? We got some potions, right? Got some potions down there. Can't use potions if you don't have any, obviously. Okay. So, and I have 1 potion because I got that awesome lucky 16. And a potion will heal anywhere, I believe, from 3 to 10 damage, or 3 to 10 health it will heal you. You make a roll on it, because this is D&D, you roll on everything. So a potion, and I don't have it set up to where the potion counts as your turn. I know technically I think it actually should, or it should be a free action or an extra action or something like that. Depending on what kind of potion you are or have, and depending what kind of Dungeon Master is running your campaign. But for the sake of gameplay, I did not add in a turn counter when you use potions. So you can, if you have 3 potions, you can just use all 3 one after another and then also attack. I've been playing around with it, and it does not break the game at all, because that limiting factor of only having 3 potions really kind of kills the ability to really take advantage of that. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to leave it like that, just in case you get like a bad roll on a potion. It would be kind of dumb if you died because you have 3 potions and you tried to use one, you got a low roll, and then you died. I mean, I know that's, all's fair in love and war, but it just kind of feels cheap a little bit. So we're not going to do that. So the potions do work, and you'll see that I don't have actually a set maximum HP. So if you have 30 HP and you have 3 potions, I mean, you can just get as much HP as you want, or as you can get. So here's the effect for the potion. Oh god, no. I'm sorry, I'm fleeing. Oh no! I wasn't paying attention, oh no. Okay, well, there's an example of the flee mechanic. So again, in order to flee the battle, you're going to have to make a roll. You're going to have to make a successful 1 out of 3 roll. So you are going to have to make a choice when you start getting low on health of, do I have potions? Do I want to use those potions? Do I think I can make a successful flee roll before I'm killed, essentially? Because the turn counter goes to the next turn if you've got to fail, if you have failed your flee. So that is one of the 2 ways to move about, right, in the dungeon. If you flee from a battle, it will take you back to town. If you win a battle, it will take you back to the start of the floor that you were currently on, or that you came from. You know, the previous game setting in the swap game node on. So you don't have to set a keyword in the swap game node on when you set it to previous. You just set it to previous, leave the keyword blank, and it will just, as soon as it's activated, it'll take its input and poop it out on the output of the node on in the previous game. You don't have to designate it. It's pretty cool. And it also helps with doing stuff like the boss battles and the normal battles. So if you flee, you come back to town and you get a soft punishment of having to essentially walk back to the cave. Because originally I had all this stuff kind of smushed in all right next to one another. And, you know, you could kind of just game the system, or you could cheese it and just flee literally every single thing and essentially just run around, get potions, flee every battle, upgrade to maximum, and then just run right through the whole thing without really ever having to battle anything. So you can technically still do that, but you're going to have to pay for it with time. Maybe there's a better way to do that. Maybe I'll figure out a better, more elegant way, but that's kind of where it sits right now. That's your punishment for fleeing the battle. I mean, you know, risk reward. You know, either you flee the battle and you got to run all the way back to the cave entrance, or you know, you lose your game entirely, which isn't a huge deal. I mean, well, at least not yet, because the characters don't develop to like a crazy degree. I mean, it does actually kind of take some time to develop your character, and then actually get to the final boss and beat him, which I won't. I might show you the final boss. I'm not going to show you really anything else except maybe. No, you know what? I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to show you the final boss. I'm not going to show you the final boss. That is for you to find. I'll show you some other stuff because, you know, it's essentially the same thing, just a little bit with some extra mechanics in there. So the final boss, just so you know, is not going to be a slugfest. There's a little bit of strategy to it. Yeah, so that's all I'm saying. All right, so we left the dungeon, floor 1. We got 1 potion and didn't use it. I intended to use it, but I accidentally fleed instead. And I actually got away on the first round, which is very uncommon. It's very uncommon to just get away like that. So that was kind of crazy, actually. All right, so we're making our way back into the dungeon. A nice little pillar room. Not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this yet. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to make like a stone-looking texture and wrap it around these pillars. Maybe put some more stuff on the ground, just random stuff. I don't know, a little pool of blood and like a skeleton in the corner or something like that. I mean, it's only a couple of nodes. Speaking of nodes, a couple of these are actually at already the 512 maximum node count, which is unfortunate, but there's a lot of wiggle room. At least I've left myself not a lot of wiggle room, but a good fair bit of it. So every single thing that gets added from here on out is a trade, essentially. I'm going to have to either remove a node in order to add one, or I'm going to have to, optimize a node cluster in order to free up a couple of nodes. But, I've got like comment nodes in there, and I've got stuff that I don't use anymore, or stuff that's just really inefficient. So there's definitely some room. So no need to worry, right? I have some wiggle room in there to add all of the stuff that I want to add. So I actually just kind of sat there and timed out my battle, and we've got again a slime, and we're getting slimes because my perception is a 2, which is my maximum perception. And perception basically affects the roll that you make at the beginning of battle to determine which enemy that you're going to get. So because I have a good perception, I have a good awareness, essentially, I'm getting easier encounters. So if you have bad perception, you better be compensating with some battle ability, because you're going to be running into some stuff. So I'm going to show you the potion now. I'm going to not flee. And this is really just, there's all this build up for this. Woo, yeah! Which is essentially just an invisible light source that I turn on and off. And it sits basically right in front of this texture node. And just because of the way that texture nodes interact with light sources, it kind of acts like a shiny object and gives me that, that all lit up effect, which is kind of what I was going for. I wish there were actually more effects in the library of, of object nodons, because there's only a handful of effects, and they're very specific to certain things. Like even making an effect for healing, which is what I was trying to do here. All I wanted was like, some sparkly, a sparkle effect, or like some waves, or I was actually using bubbles for a little bit, but I just didn't like it. It just didn't look like you were healing. It looked like you were blowing bubbles out your belly button. It's very strange. But so we're gonna kind of have to improvise with the different effects that we're gonna do, which includes also the effects for all of the spells and attacks that we're gonna do. So right now they're all pretty generic, but I'm going to customize every. So whenever you change class, your spell is gonna basically be different. It's gonna look different. It's gonna be the same roll, but it's gonna be different. It's gonna be based also on your intelligence. So the amount of magic points that you have, or MP, up here, this guy right here, the amount of magic points that you have is determined by your intelligence, and the amount of damage that you do with your spell is also determined by your intelligence. So, I mean, like I said, all of your stats are actually doing something, which is pretty cool. So we've used our potion. So I didn't get any potions on that run because I kind of just stood there and talked. So I want to go back to the dungeon after this. I don't want to flee and basically go back to the town and have to walk all the way back up to the cave entrance or dungeon entrance. So we're just going to kill this guy. 7 damage. That's kind of low. It's kind of low for a wizard, honestly. But he did 6. 4. I got low rolls on my spells right now. What the heck? 9. He's doing 9 to me. I'm gonna change all the sound effects too. Oh, but that was a big boy hit. That was a big boy hit right there. Okay. So let's see. And on the different floors too, I've also moved all of the chests and battle encounters around, so you never kind of know which rooms are safe and which ones aren't by design. And eventually I would like to be able to do like a true random room generator. That's going to be in like, nice. That's going to be in like version 2, basically. For right now, I'm just going to have to make all of the maps by hand. And move all of the different encounters and chests around just by hand. For at least for now, for a little bit, you know, kind of works. So I'm just kind of looking around. I kind of forgot which rooms were good. Actually, I think I remember this room is maybe not good. I'm not sure. But I know that this one up here is good, right? Is this the one? Oh my god, I didn't make it! No! I didn't make it! Okay. Okay, so here is our kind of middle of the road guy, just a spider. Very terrible, terrible, terrible looking spider. But, you know, it is what it is. It'll look better eventually. And, you know, I'm also going to add kind of idle animations. So they're kind of like, you know, bobbing up and down, moving. And whenever they actually make an attack or perform a spell, they're going to do a certain animation as well. Again, it's just so much texture drawing, which I'm absolute ass at. So it's going to take me a lot longer than, you know, someone who's pretty artistically challenged or pretty artistically inclined, and they've got one of those nice little pens, and they get the switch up on, you know, in the handheld mode, and they can just sit there and draw, and it just looks great. You know, I've seen a bunch of textures in other people's games that look absolutely fantastic. A little bit jealous for sure, but what can you do? There's my here's my stick figure mage, bitches. All right, so this is our spider. I have one potion, but I don't want to use it. So we're gonna try and just use all of our spell power and get rid of this guy as quickly as possible, because I want to get back to the floor. And oh my god, he did 10 damage. And I want to, oh man. Ooh, okay. I'm actually in kind of a tight spot right now. So, all right, let's do another turn or two and see where we go. 9, that's good. That's a good roll. Come on, come on. Oh my god, another 10. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Okay, I really don't want to use my potion. So I'm going to flee. I'm going to try to flee. Please don't kill me. Come on. Come on, baby. You can run. Yes! Wow. 2 times in a row now. 2 times in a row I was able to flee on the first turn. That's unheard of. Alright, so as you can see, we're kind of getting our shit rocked right now. So we need to be stronger, or I need to stop being so damn stingy with my potions. But essentially my goal right now, just to show you, is going to be to upgrade my strength one more time, and then basically go for the first boss, just to kind of show you that. And then I'll go into some of the nodes, or the program layout for some of these games, because I have definitely changed the way that I do a lot of stuff in here. I purposely went back and I put in as many markers and bullseyes as I possibly could. Maybe too many. Maybe I've got markers and bullseyes doing things that really they don't need to do, but I just love them so much. I just like using them so much. I just put them in there. I don't even care. I don't even care if it's inefficient or stupid or whatever. It's, you know, this makes me happy, and you just got to do what makes you happy, right? I mean, that's, you know, you only got one life to live. Oh my god. Okay, so I had a chance to unlock that chest. It was a locked chest because I rolled 10. I had a chance to unlock that chest, and I totally whiffed it because I was not paying attention. So you have to actually kind of be on the ball when you're playing here. And another slime. Another slime. So we're getting really good rolls on our perception right now. This is good, because I am a weak little mage with 30 health, and I don't want to start this over again. And then basically have to restart the video. I probably wouldn't restart the video. I'd just say, oops, oh, we died, oh well, that's it. And then just kind of go into the other explanation. But I do kind of want to get to that one part just to kind of show you. Oh boy, so, oh, I did a lot of damage to him already. So, bam. Okay, I missed on that one. Or no, I got him, I'm sorry. Or no, he missed. Now it's my turn. Can we knock him out right here? Ooh, almost. Almost. You're dead, though, Mr. Slime. You are dead man walking. Dead slime rolling. It doesn't even matter what I choose here. He's dead. Okay, there he goes. All right, so with the addition of that nat 20 that I just rolled on that chest, I now have 3 potions. And I just actually realized as well, I wanted to flee that battle because I want to go back to town. So now this is where having that doorway basically back to town would really help. And I'm thinking that on each level of the dungeon, the doorway is going to go back to the previous level. So you could, you could descend all the way back down into, into town if you wanted to by foot. But I just haven't added that yet. I've just been working on all the other logic, and I finally got it to a point where I can just sit down and play test it over and over again, and it's actually kind of fun. So we're gonna call it version 0.9, and we're gonna upload it because I feel like I literally could just sit here and work on this almost indefinitely and just never upload it, and it's just me stroking myself with this game just for, I don't know, untold amounts of time. So I want to be able to actually share this, and I want to be able to actually maybe help some people, if I can. If one person found this cool, and if one person was able to further, the game that they want to make because they looked at my stuff and was like, oh, hey, look, I can do that. That's it. That'd make my day. That would be, that I would consider this mission accomplished. So yeah. So we got another spider again, and I have 3 potions. I don't want to use any of my potions, and I want to go back to town, so I'm going to start trying to flee. If I get another flee on first turn, I'm going to be a little suspicious. Okay. We might have to look at that that node cluster and see what's going on, see if we're not broken over there. Otherwise, you could just be getting lucky rolls. I haven't actually messed with the flee function out of a battle for quite some time, so it hasn't changed in a while, so it should be fine. Alright, so I now have 3 potions. And all you do here, basically, is just walk up to one of these campfires. And I'm going to put maybe a little texture either on the floor here, or like on top of this box or something. I'm going to do some kind of texture to designate which stat this is. Right now you can kind of just figure it out. I've laid them out in the exact same order, 1 3 1 2 1 3 1 2. You can tell that it goes strength, intelligence, dexterity, and perception because that's the order that I always list it in. Even in the battle mode, you'll see it's strength, intelligence, dexterity, and perception. So it's always in the same order, but just to be extra video gamey, you gotta add little identifiers and notifications all over the place because God forbid you forget what's going on. So I'm going to want to upgrade my strength. So we're just going to walk up here and press A. Bam. So now we have 2 strength, 3 intelligence, a crappy dexterity, and good perception. So, and I'm surprised that I'm really, really shocked actually that I got a nat 20 on that one chest because my dexterity is terrible. So definitely shouldn't have gotten that, but we did. And that is definitely speeding this little process up right here. So I have 0 potions. I would like at least 1 or 2 potions before going into the boss. So we're going to have to do at least one more loot run and battle before we try and progress to the next floor. What do we got? Ooh, God, that's more like it. That's what I was expecting. Yeah, put some textures on these walls. So every wall kind of looks like a mossy, cobblestone covered thing. And, you know, maybe on every other texture I'll have like a little sconce or whatever, or like a little torch on the wall. And then maybe even an actual, like, lighted object. Oh, God. I'm sitting here talking again. I'm like, I keep forgetting that, you know, the clock is ticking. I'm never going to make this. I'm never going to make it. Come on, baby. Ah! Ah! Okay, that's fine. And so as you can see now, my stats have changed, so my avatar changes. And that is my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Crusader guy. Can't tell exactly which way he's looking. He doesn't really have eyes. And he's a stick figure, so it looks like crap. But it does the job of distinguishing between the different classes for now. So I will eventually be making much better textures. And like I said, they're all going to have animations for all of their actions as well. So it's just going to be a lot more fluent. Also, I'm definitely going to be changing the background and everything for the battle area. Because this was just the easiest thing to do right off the bat was, you know, make a sand area, sand world, put it at you know, outer space, and then just put a game screen right on top of it and shove some text boxes and number boxes in there, and wham bam, you got a battle mechanic. So we definitely want to just get rid of this guy because he's a slime. He's got half of my health, so he just needs to go away. I could take him out in the next turn. Oh, he's attacking me. I'm gonna go low. Oh yeah! Gotcha! Gotcha. You thought you were gonna hit me in my kneecaps, and I said, nah, Alright. And there it goes. Exactly 0. Nice. Alright, so I want at least 1 potion. If I die at the boss battle, that's fine. I don't have to beat him. I just kind of want to show you. So, alright, we need at least 1 lucky roll. And I'm going to actually pay attention this time so I can get 2 chests. Come on. What do we got? Yeah, these are the rolls I was expecting. With a 1 dexterity, these are the rolls I was expecting. And there's a whole bunch of other rooms in here too with different chests and different kinds of encounters and dead ends and blah blah blah. So I'm really only showing you this one little path, but it's kind of big. It's not super huge, but you know, if you're unfamiliar with the map, you could definitely get lost in here, and that's kind of the point. You know, I want it to feel bigger and badder than it actually is. Oh my god, a 20 again! How does this happen? Oh, yeah, and there's my 2 potions. Great, perfect. Perfect. All right. So we got a couple of potions. Down with that. Another slime. So I haven't gotten any other monsters right now because my perception is just so good. I just run away from everything except slimes for some reason. So I guess, at least for now, it's going to kind of be a mystery at, you know, what other monsters are in here, but you'll see. So, yeah, okay, I definitely want to kill him because I want to get back into the floor because I need to make a beeline for the boss. Ouch. It's alright, you only got 11 hit points left. Come on. Ow, 9. Okay, you're definitely dying right here. Yeah, there you go. I think that was a 10. Holy cow. Alright, I have a couple of potions. Alright, let's go. Let's go to the boss. Get around this little fountain here. A bunch more stuff like that too, right? Just that one little random fountain. I just wanted to do that just in order to kind of test out how that would look and how easy it would be to set up. Extremely easy. Looks great. Except for my terrible looking texture file. Again. But yeah, so I essentially just put that texture there at an angle. Or no, I'm sorry, it's not at an angle. It's centered on the Z axis. So it's always facing the camera. And I made a invisible solid sphere that goes basically right on top of it so that, you know, you're kind of running into something and it kind of feels like it's there. Okay. All right, we are on our way. So now if you get into this little climb animation here and you didn't do it quick enough, you can actually get pulled out of that little climb into a normal battle, which is going to poop you back out at the beginning of the map. So you do actually have to, you know, if you get into that little climbing animation, it's not, you know, scot-free. You got into the boss battle. You could actually be interrupted if you weren't quick enough getting there in the first place. All right, so this is kind of my interpretation of a mind flayer. Now you may be thinking to yourself, that's not a mind flayer. That's the imposter mind flayer from Stranger Things. A real mind flayer looks like a little Cthulhu man who is wearing like a mage's robe. Depending on, I guess, which version of D&D you're playing. But, you know, I really honestly do attribute the resurgence of D&D to Stranger Things and how they just made it look cool and they made it look like a lot of fun. And then I think like a bunch of people started doing it and realizing that, oh my gosh, there's actually kind of a fun game in here. Like, it's not dumb, stupid, and boring. It's like a video game, except there's no game engine to be constrained by. You can just do whatever you want, and there are rules in order for, you know, you to determine what happens when you do whatever you want. So that whole freedom aspect of it, I think, is extremely appealing, and I think that is definitely why D&D has stayed around for so long, and in particular why it's had its recent resurgence in the past couple of years. So this is my mind flayer. He looks like garbage for now, and he's not exactly a mind flayer, but you get the idea. He also kind of looks like a cyclops with that little red eye. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that red eye or change it to two little eyes, or maybe give him a little flame on his head or something. I don't know. I'm kind of going off the, kind of just flying off the bar on this one. So, and as you'll see, he's got 60 health. And being a boss, he does do slightly different damage than a normal monster does. And also, he's going to be looking at my stats. Exactly what he's looking at my stats for, I will not disclose. If you download it and go and look into the code and figure out what it is, then good for you. But, you know, you've then ruined your own surprise. So I'm not going to voluntarily do that. I'll just tell you that this isn't your average battle. So I've got a little bit of leeway. I've got 2 potions. So we're just gonna see. I'm just gonna spend all of my MP right now and see what I can do to him, and hopefully he doesn't absolutely annihilate me. So it's not bad. It's not bad. 8. Okay. 8. All right. Now he's matching me. That's not good. 8. All right. Match that, baby. Hit me back with an 8. I dare you. Okay, he didn't. He came back with a 9. I really got to stop trash talking because the random number generators, I swear they know. The random number generators like are conscious in a little bit of a way, and they will smack you in the face if you talking smack. Okay, so this is very scary actually. He's got over twice my health. I've only got 2 potions. And if I flee, I'm not going to successfully go to the next floor, floor 2. I'm going to go back to town, and then I'm going to have to go back and try and get some more potions to see if I can come back and beat him another time. So we're just going to go ahead and use both of our potions and see if we can't give me a little bit of breathing room. Oh, right there. Perfect. 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 Look at this. Now this is scaling, baby. I spent so much time fiddling with the numbers in order to get it to where it feels fair. And that feels fair. I mean, we have the exact same amount of health after, midway through the battle. So it's working exactly as intended, and I love it. All right, so I've only got 2 spells left. This is actually a little bit worrisome right now. Ooh, that was a big hit. Good, good, good. 2. Okay, he's messing up. Or, well, I think we got this now. I'm officially out of MP, and my last spell was absolute garbage. Oh, we did 8. That's not good. I am still ahead a little bit. 2 damage. That's not good. This isn't good. Okay, he's coming back at me with a melee. Right in the middle. Right in the middle. Oh, God. He went after the head. He went for the head. I'm sweeping his non-legs. Yeah, there we go. Alright, we're a couple of turns away here. Oh, God. Okay, low rolls. I got really lucky on this run. He had a bunch of low rolls. Typically, if you're not very prepared for this battle, he will crush you. And this is essentially going to be a test of your health and magic points. I've scaled it in such a way that if you are not prepared, he will steamroll you. Alright, so come on. I'm going for the head. Ooh, yes! And a defeat. Defeat. Oh, and I'm also going to add like a little outro, intro kind of thing. Like, the Mind Flayer was defeated. You move to the next floor. The kind of like the D&D classic, like describing what's happening as it's happening. Same thing with all of the attacks and everything like that. So whenever you do like a flee and your flee fails, it'll pop up with a little text box or texture note on and say, flee attempt failed, whatever. Something like that. Something along those lines. You know what I mean. All right, so now here we are, level 2. Level 2. As you can see, I've got a slightly different layout for this first room here. And the rest of the floor is also slightly different. So that's that. That essentially is it in a nutshell. There's a lot more to kind of go over, but I mean, you have now seen the extent of what this game is so far. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty fun. It definitely can last more than like 5 minutes, which was, the goal of this. So now we're going to take a look at some of the really, really fun bits. And I'm just going to go over this really quickly just to show a couple of different things that I've added, changed, whatever. So we're going to start off in the starting area. Kind of look at this. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. So, again, like I said in my last video, I'm really trying very hard to document what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and also kind of keep my work area as clean and organized as I really can. Because coming back into this and trying to work on it, if it's not organized, is nearly impossible and just results in so much wasted time that, anything of any significance will basically never get done. So I've tried to keep it organized at least organized in a way that I can kind of look at it and remember how I've been placing these down. So we start off as our camera right here. And we are looking at our little, our sorceress with our invisible, well, this is a teleport actually, and it's going to teleport in my text block, which kind of lives down here. And that's just because I don't want to see that ugly text box when you start up the game, so that the game thumbnail is nice and clean. So, and I might just actually put a custom texture like right in front of the camera for each of the games that kind of says, they'll all be standardized, and then it'll also kind of say like what it is in like a cool little, maybe nice and fancy way, so that, when you're scrolling through your games, there's this very put together chunk of games that they all look similar, they're all named similar, the screenshot on the thumbnail or whatever they're all similar. So that's the goal there. We're not there exactly yet, but again, most of the hard stuff and the time consuming stuff is done now. Not entirely done, but most of that stuff is now done. So I can now really start to kind of come in here and focus on all the little aspects, all the little tiny mechanics, and all the little tweaks and stuff that's, maybe you don't immediately notice or recognize, but a bunch of little things add up to a big difference very quickly. Compound effect. So nothing too amazing going on in here. This is the least complicated of the games, and you can see we're only at like 168 nodes, so there's almost nothing in here. And that also is kind of prompting me to want to use this world for more than one thing, if I can make it work elegantly and not stupidly. So if I can't make that work, then you're just going to have, essentially a 200 node on game that starts off all of the other ones that are almost all of the other games are in their upper 400s or at 512. Because I mean that's kind of the nature of making games in GameBuilder Garage, is you're going to have to work around this. But I honestly think that also teaches the lesson, because if you're an actual game designer, you're not just gonna have access to, the most powerful system and all of the RAM and, the most efficient CPU and GPU. You're not gonna just have access to anything and everything you want. You can obviously just sit there and, make like a Crisis type of game and say, I don't, to hell with the consumer. If you don't have the PC to run this, then that's your fault. This is more like, make something generic. Make something that most people can easily run. And being able to make a game that's fun while working around your system limitations, your hardware and software limitations. That's just part of game design, right? And that's being taught here forcefully with the 512 limit. Now, I think the 512 is also part of Nintendo saying, we want this to be a Nintendo product. We want it to run butter smooth all the time. So we're going to cap you at 512 nodes. Or a combination, or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a mind reader, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. So, yeah, there's not too much going on here. So I will show you the, I got a couple of different maps, or not maps, what are these called again? Markers. I got a couple of different marker setups going on. So I have, all of these textures for my dice. And as you can see, I literally just drawn one dice which I essentially just copied off of the internet, the pixel art, and kind of made it a slightly different for my use. And then I've just colored it in different ways, and then I just duplicated it and rotated it 90 degrees. Duplicate, rotate, shift it over a little bit, and if you cycle through them and they're all sitting on the exact same spot, it goes around in a little circle. It's not perfect. I would like to add a three-dimensional looking texture for the roll. But yeah, again, that's coming. It's coming in the future when I get around to making much better texture nodes. So we've got a little array over here. So this little array, T, is essentially just counting the times I've pressed the A button, right? It's not more complicated than that. And especially in this one, not so much in the other ones, but especially in this one, there are not a lot of safeguards in place to keep you from just going ape wild. And you're not going to break it, but it's going to be a bad experience, and it's going to be janky if you try and break it. But if you're a normal person and you're following the on-screen instructions, then it's going to work just fine. So this is here it is. So this is the basically a counter for the number of times that I press the A button. So I've pressed the A button here, right? That tells the witch to turn around, and that summons my text block. And that's handled, over there somewhere. Press it again. That is rotating my camera to go and look at the my dice. Press it again, and this now activates my another setup over here, which I'll go over soon. That is displaying the animation for my dice. And as you can see, it's kind of, can you see that? Yeah, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see it's rotating through these guys here. Right, so that's now rotating. One more press destroys that block and starts rotating the intelligence dice, and then so on and so forth. And then you can also see here, I've got a couple of triggers coming off of here as well, and then essentially passing each of the variables that you've created for your stats through to some texture nodes, right? Comes in here, multiplies by this flag, basically essentially to say that, this is true. This is a 1. I find myself doing this quite a lot. I don't know if this is dumb, smart, efficient, inefficient, I'm not sure. I just find myself doing it a lot. I use a multiplication node for pass-through. There's probably a better way to do it. I know you can do with maps. Maps do all kinds of awesome stuff. So, but for very simple, like yes, no, pass through the value nodes, I end up just using multiplication calculators. Works fine. Works fine for now, so we'll see. So yeah, we're taking the value from the stat that you've rolled, timesing it by 1, passing it through into a map that converts it into somewhere between a 0 and a 1, because that's what markers enjoy. So that's that. Yeah, and there's here's a little bit of movie magic right here. Essentially, as soon as you load up the game, all of your stats are generated already. You're not generating the stats on the button clicks that you think you are. It's all just part of the show. Smoke and mirrors. Don't mind the man behind the curtain. He's not doing anything important. So we're just so this is just tracking our A presses, and then when we hit a certain point in the tutorial, essentially, then we're gonna be doing other stuff. We're gonna be displaying our values so that we can see what we got. We're going to be activating the animation for our dice, and then we're going to be destroying those blocks that they reside on, so it looks like it's just kind of exploding into nothingness. So this little setup right here is actually kind of cool because what I've done is I have two different markers on here. I couldn't exactly figure out how to get the 2D marker to behave in the way that I wanted it to behave. So essentially what I'm doing is I have a extend. Where is he? Come on. Well, he's in here. Yeah, I can't seem to click on him. Oh, there he is. Gotcha. Okay, so I've got an extend marker in the first column of my 2D marker. And the reason that I did that was because I wanted to be able to tell which dice I was on, and then when I was on that dice, I wanted to cycle through my animations or my textures. So I essentially have this extension that is retracting and saying, okay, you're here, now you're here, now you're here, now you're here, and that's basically what dice you're on. And then when that's activated, I have my little counter here. Is this... He's looping into 0.4, yeah, so 0.4. So this is basically how fast that little ball is moving. And you'll see it right here if we do this. Bam. So on that button press right there, after I've gotten to this area right here, I'm pointing at my screen thinking that you're gonna be able to see what I'm pointing at. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so that area over there. So this, as soon as you get to this little area right here, we're going to use a 0.04 value to count up between 0 and 1. And that's giving us the speed that this ball is moving here on the bottom floor. And then we're also using these triggers up here. These triggers up here to determine, which position my extend marker is on. And they move in tandem. So extend goes up, and my counter moves on the bottom x-axis back and forth. It resets that count, and then it goes up on the y-axis after I hit another marker over here, so on and so forth. I'm not going to go too much into what every single little node does, but I just kind of wanted to show that because I thought that was a little bit cool. I've got several different markers kind of interacting on the same space, which I don't know, feels cool, looks cool. So that's that. That essentially. And then I got another move marker over here to tell me which value I got on my stat roll, because I'm using a texture to display either a 1, a 2, or a 3, one of my stats. And instead of using a number block, because I'm not a huge fan of those number blocks. They're just ugly, right? Functionally, they're great, right? Functionally, pretty much everything in here is pretty cool. Just also at the same time, everything is a little bit ugly, which is why it just requires you to make so many textures in order to make this look acceptable. And then I've got another extender. Is this an extend? Yes, it is an extend. So this marker is, what is he doing? Oh, he's destroying my objects. Yes, he's destroying my blocks that are displaying the dice when I get to the number of A presses that I figured out. And then here is the my encoder, taking my stats that I've gotten, encoding them into maps. And yeah, so in this run right here, this right here is extremely important. I did not realize how important the range restriction was. So essentially, this it keeps the same ratio that you've set up in your input and output range, but it's not restricted to the range that you've given it. So if I were to give this is disabled. So if I were to give this a 2, it would give me a 16, right? Because a 0 is a 0, a 1 is an 8, so a 2 would be a 16. And it's just going to keep going out onto infinity if I have the range restriction disabled. If I've got it enabled, it doesn't matter what I give it in my input. If it's outside of the range that I've selected, it is going to round it down or up to the closest range. So it's extremely helpful for a lot of things, and having it disabled and having the range extended, and essentially you're just setting up a rule, a mapping rule, and then you can put all kinds of stuff in there, and it's going to figure out what satisfies that rule. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, so last time I was kind of not entirely sure what the maps were doing. I mean, I knew that it was mapping my input to an output, in a very simple way, or I was understanding it in a very simple way. But those little extra things like the range restriction and, what happens if this is negative and what does this do exactly, all the little nuances of using the map nodon were definitely foreign to me up until recently. So I've been taking a deep dive into how to the exact behaviors of all these different kinds of nodes. So that's my encoder, just taking my my stats and sending it to the town. And essentially, I mean, that is it for the starting area. It's very simple. It's the least complicated of the bunch. So next we're going to take a short look at the town area. I don't think there's really much in here either. This is pretty plain. So you can see this is kind of where we start. That's the person nodon right there. All of these boxes are actually solid. They're invisible and solid, and they have a texture on them. So it looks kind of like a wall of trees that you just can't walk through. Now, some of these boxes are actually not solid, so you can just walk right through there. But, I mean, where are you going to go? You ain't going to go anywhere. So you're going to go right back to this little path that I've made for you. And like I said, too, eventually there's going to be a whole bunch of other stuff over here. This is going to be a whole town where you can get side quests and where you can get hints and tips. And maybe some other stuff too. I don't know. I'm going to try and think of some other functions for a town area. So we'll see. We'll see how I feel. And then over here, so this is just... What is this? I don't even know. We're doing something with our variables. We're taking them in. Something. Sending it to J. Oh yeah, so this is where I'm essentially, So this is where I'm basically taking your potions away. And all I'm doing right there is asking whether or not, where's J? Is asking whether or not you have 3 potions. And if you do have 3 potions, and you are standing in the sensor, the touch sensor for the box, and you press A, then we're going to send a -3 value to your J, which is your potions in this game. And I kind of like that because I didn't exactly realize this before, but you can perform a little bit of math on the actual port of a nodon. So let's say this right here, this port was getting a 3, I could actually make another node over here and send in a -3, and this port will then read 0. So you can actually perform a little bit of math at the port here, which is very useful, especially for this. So instead of having to essentially output my J and then map it and then put it back into J, which didn't sound very appealing. I can just ask whether or not I have 3 potions, and if I do, and if I'm standing in front of the thing and pressing the A button, then I send a -3 value that basically just sits on top of my J. So it will actually be 3 -3 the entire game up until I swap over into another game. It will have both of those values on it. But when the game switches over, it resolves into a 0. So I never actually change the value of J in this map. I simply am applying a -3, and then when we send over that value through the swap game nodon, the other game doesn't know that 0 was actually a 3 and a -3. It just sees it as a 0. A little bit boring, but it's useful for some very specific applications. So, and here's my encoder decoder again. I mean, it's not my encoder decoder. It's, I got it from somebody else, but that's where it resides in my map. So that is that one. Not too much going on. What do we got? Yeah, see, again, only 145 nodons. So it is the actual maps and the battle that are a little bit crazy. So we're just going to look really quickly at, let's look at the regular battle, because I don't want to give too much away with this. So we're going to just look at the regular battle. And so now you can see one of my other absolutely stunning, beautiful textures of this goblin? Goblin, maybe? We'll call it a goblin, sure. We're going to call that a goblin, and he's holding a spear. So this is kind of like the extent of my ability to draw freehand. I mean, this is literally, I literally drew this with this mouse. It didn't turn out too bad. I was expecting much worse. This is where I started. And then after like a couple of days of doing this, I kind of ended up over here. So I am eventually going to go back and make him look more detailed, about as detailed as this. And then I'll probably call that version 1.1 or something like that. And then eventually I'll go back and make all of the textures like super nice. Like, I'll actually go on the computer into Photoshop or something like that and convert like a really nice image into pixels, and then just go into here in the editor and go pixel by pixel and recreate it exactly, so that it looks really, really nice. Because I just don't have the eye for art stuff. I don't know. You get what you're born with, and I wasn't born with that. So that's that. So this one actually looks a little bit cooler. And I have broken off I've broken off the code into a bunch of different areas. And again, like I've written down kind of like what each variable is doing. I won't go over that, but this is essentially all of your menu options. So Z is going to be the position of your first menu, and I'll show you that. It's right here. So the way that I'm doing this menu is super simple. It's essentially just a counter that is looping in a range of 1 to 4. And my button presses are just adding and subtracting. And then I am saying whether or not, this value is true, and then, lighting up that texture over here as the selector. But the nice thing about using a counter like this is that I now have Z is the exact position of that menu item, which allows me to interrogate where my menu is at. So that allows me to come down here and say, okay, Z is 3. So Z is on 3, which is, what is 3 again? It should be potion? Yeah, potion. So when z is 3, so z is 3, right? And the turn is not my turn. So this is, so t is turn in my mind. And t sends out a 1 signal or an on signal when it is the opponent's turn. And when it is not the opponent's turn, it does not have a signal, which is why I'm reversing it with this not here. So I'm looking that it is my turn and I've pressed A and my cursor is on number 3, at which point we, do this, which is, let's see, we're looking at, oh yeah, so this is the potions, right? So we're looking for whether or not my potions are greater than 0. And if they are greater than 0, then I come in here and I do this little flow, which is I'm basically rolling random numbers for the amount of health that I'm healing, adding them up, sending that over to n. And then n, this is the messy bit right here. So I still haven't fixed this because I want them all to look like this, right? This is the ideal node cluster right here. This is what they should all look like. Very neat and organized, and you can see exactly what is happening here. If you know what the variables are doing. Because just given this little chunk right here, I could almost probably not tell you what actually is happening here. I can tell you vaguely what's happening, but without knowing where U goes and where Y comes from, you don't really know what's going on here, which is why it's very essential to be writing that down. So here's the different, you can see a couple of different monsters in there, including my beholder, right? That's him right there. It's an ugly boy. So for the potions, so the potions actually is an interesting little thing because we are going to be using potions. So I'm going to be receiving my potion value from the previous game, and whether or not I use potions, I'm going to most likely be sending back a different value. And I don't want to go below 0 or above 3. So that's where I use this this marker node on, this marker and bullseye setup. So essentially what happens here is that when I get, is this actually the one that I'm doing? No. No, so this actually, I'm sorry, my bad. This is for your intelligence. Yeah, so this is actually, it's the same thing as the potions. I'll show you the potions one too, but this is determining how much MP you have based on your intelligence. So we're going to take your intelligence, times it by 2, map that from that number, that an integer, to somewhere between a 0 and a 1, and then poop it onto the Y coordinate. And then over here, we're going to be moving our X coordinate with Z number 2, with our spell selection on our main menu, Z. And then mapping that from 0 to 1. So essentially, I have, if my intelligence is 1, I have these 2 slots. It starts here saying I have 2 MP. When I press this, it moves it over 1 and says I have 1, and then moves it over again and says I have 0. And then same thing over here. If I start with 2 intelligence, then I'm going to have 4, and then this 5th one is going to be the 0 slot to tell me that I can't subtract potions, or I'm sorry, I can't subtract magic anymore. And so that's what that does. And also I've got to map all of these values, because this is all just 1s, right? This is all just 0s and 1s here, and I want to be able to take that and turn it into an actual number that I can use and poop it into E over here. So the potions one is actually very small. There it is. It's very small. Is this my potions one? Yes, it is. So I'm essentially taking my potions, because potions essentially has 2 variables that I use. I have my incoming potions variable, and I have my outgoing potions variable. And you can see that here in my decode encode. So my swap game, it receives a number from my previous game and outputs into here. So I get my standard ABCD for my stats, and then P for potions, or starting potions, my incoming potions. And then you can see here that I get ABCD and then O as my potions, as my outgoing potions. Or this is like, you know, the potions that I'm using currently. So it's in the same position, and it's hooked up in the same way that it would be if this were P. But I'm just taking P in order to generate another number based on P, send it into O, and then send O back to another game, because the game doesn't know that it's, you know, it's not P. So, and where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? There it is. So essentially, we take my potion value, convert it into a number that the marker likes, and then we're counting how many times I've selected number 3 potion on my main menu, and it only passes through here obviously if O is greater than 0. So my P, my starting potions, is going to set the Y coordinate of how many potions I have. So I can only have, you know, 3 potions. 1, 2, or I'm sorry, 1, 2, and 3. And this is a 0. So all of these right here, this is kind of like where I stop. So my potion comes in and sets the Y coordinates. So it's either going to be here, 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 or here. And then when that counter runs after I've selected potions in my main menu, it's going to count up and convert that into a number that the marker likes and move that along the x-axis. So basically, depending on which level you are is going to determine how many times you can go right before you are stopped by this node, or this bullseye that's going to output a 0. And so all I'm doing there is I'm just, because all of these bullseyes, when the marker is over it, is going to go from outputting a 0 to outputting a 1. So when these specific bullseyes are outputting a 1, I'm just mapping that right back into 0. And then all of these maps, and then this maps it to 3, this maps it to 2, and then I actually don't need a map to 1, which is why these just go straight in here. I actually did have a map here, mapping a 1 to a 1 earlier, just because it looked better, but, you know, I'm actually approaching maximum nodes, so we're gonna have to start considering not being such a sloppy mess. So I eliminated that map because it's literally not doing anything, and we're just gonna map those, or just gonna send those 1s straight into O. So you can see here I'm essentially taking P, setting my position on the grid, moving that position on the grid with a menu press, where I will end up in a spot where I am now locked, where it's going to send a 0 value into O, and thus it is going to shut off this AND gate and not allow me to interact with potions anymore. So that's how that works. We're not really going to go over kind of this other stuff. This we just talked about. What is this? Is this cool? Probably not. What exactly even is this? I'm not entirely sure. Oh, this is where I am determining what monster you're encountering when you come into battle. So D is your perception. We're going to map that for some reason. Why am I mapping this like this? I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to go back into my notes and see what I'm doing here. But essentially, on the start of the game, I'm generating a number, and it's going to be augmented by your perception, and then we're going to map that into one of these 4 areas, and that is going to activate which guy shows up. And then also, we're going to map... we're going to map my 1 to 4 selection. So I'm generating a 1 to a 4, and then we're going to map that from a 20 to a 50 for health, and then set that as the enemy's health, and that's how I'm doing that. And that just happens simultaneously here at the start of combat. So that's not terribly interesting. I don't think I really have anything else cool going on here. Oh, so this area right here, and this probably, I'm going to take a wild guess and say that this is not optimal at all. This is probably an area to use a marker somehow. I just haven't quite figured out how to best use a marker here, because the goal is to, when you're using a marker, use less nodes than you otherwise would. And I have found myself wanting to use a marker so bad that I end up using more nodes than I would have if I just did a couple of simple comparison checks. So essentially that's what's happening here. We're just doing compare. We're just comparing all of my stats. Is my strength 2? No, you're a weak son of a gun. Is my intelligence equal to or less than 2? You're dumb. Blah blah blah, so on and so forth. You can take a closer look at that, you know, if you download it if you want. And essentially that is that's the battle area. Not too crazy, nothing extremely fancy happening, but a couple of cool little markers that I like. And then finally, we are going to be looking at the actual floor itself. Now this is where things got absolutely insane because, oops, wrong button. Because if you watched the previous video, you saw that everything was laid out real nice and crisp, two-dimensional, you know, it doesn't look complicated at all. The problem, though, is that when you lay out a bunch of logic and then you want to move it around, it's not always where you think it is on the other axis. So when I made a bunch of node clusters, and then I had to basically switch to the overhead view, because if I look at this way, right, you'll never build anything like this. You can't. There's no way to know what the heck is going on in here because you're looking at everything front on. You know, I'm looking at a map, you know, at eye level, which is just not going to work. So you have to do it on the y-axis, I guess, and which allows us to kind of come through here and view it like you would a normal map. So this is where I kind of moved. I took all of these chests and I moved them around, and I added some, you know, some stuff, some destroy. Oh, this is where I'm tracking the location of the person. So yeah, so when you start to come in here, things get messed up really quickly. At least in this view. I try and keep it so that on this view, geez, where the why how and why I don't understand, but whatever, I don't care. Just that's what's gonna happen when if you program if you lay nodes on the x-axis in 2 dimensions. Essentially you kind of do like this, right? When you go top-down view, most likely it is not going to look like that. Somehow this actually does look like that, but as you can see over here, my effects, you know, for apparently no reason, and I know that there's a reason, I just don't understand it entirely. That is all wonky, even though everything else I laid down here is perfectly fine at both views. Just those two, for some reason, did not lay down like the rest of them did. I don't know. Whatever. So, in this area, at this level, looking at it on the x-axis, is where I try and make the nodes make sense. And then when I switch over to the y-axis, I'm kind of just laying out objects. That's really the only reason I'm ever in the y-axis, is I need to lay down objects in a certain way that isn't too frickin' dimensional. So that's what I did there. So as you'll see, and I don't want to kind of scroll through the map and give stuff away, but as you'll see, the main thing that I changed here is this. So before, I had a whole bunch of different objects teleporting to and fro, all kind of wonky ways. So now I'm using the proper marker setup. Actually, I lied. This is not the proper marker setup. Well, I'm going to go ahead and assume that this is not the proper marker setup, because what we have here is we have 20 numbers, which just so happens to lay out very nicely in 5 rows of 4, a nice little cube. So I thought, hey, I can probably use a 2D marker nodon and figure out how to programmatically alter my X and Y coordinate to find which number I'm supposed to be on. However, I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out, to no avail. So what I ended up doing was I used 4 move nodons, and I'm moving my value from F, the face of my die, through here. So now essentially what's happening is I've got overlapping layers. So I've got like a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, right? And then 5, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and so on and so forth. And I just had to do that because there needed to be a resting place before and after each of these layers, for the marker, or the marker? Yeah, I guess. For the marker to rest on and not actually display something. And so that's what happens there. So this will basically just goes, you know, it kind of just wraps around. It looks interesting. It looks like I'm doing something that would probably be very useful for another application, but I'm using it here just because I'm dumb. But I assume that this principle is probably better for something else. I just couldn't figure out how to get the 2D marker to work like I wanted it to, and I'll probably figure that out at some point in the future and then modify this. But yeah, so that is essentially it for that guy. Everything else is basically the same as it was before. You know, this is how my rolls are working. This is where the roll dice happens. These are my effects. Fail, success. We're just checking these numbers. And you know what? And probably some of this also. Oh, I didn't want to do that. There we go. Probably some of this is going to be converted again into a map and bullseye setup. I just haven't figured out the best way to do it yet. But that's definitely coming. So yeah, that's it. I mean, there's some other stuff. There's some nuances in here, and I will put a more detailed description of kind of like the rules and the general gameplay. I'm gonna try and not spoil too much and like just tell you exactly how to beat this thing, because I kind of want you to figure it out a little bit on your own. It's, you know, it's a game. That's what we're supposed to do. We're playing a game, right? I mean, yeah. So that is essentially it. That's my update. We're gonna call it Dungeon Master version 0.9, and it is available now. Link's going to be in the description. Thank you guys. Thanks for stopping in. This is a long one. I don't know how long this has been recording, but it's been a minute. So if you're still here, thank you. Go ahead and check out this game on GameBuilder Garage. Give me some feedback on Reddit. Yeah, thank you. Have a good one. See you later.